Hey everybody, welcome back. So I have some news that came out today, including new announcements from Arrow for their November releases, as well as new titles coming from Severin next month in September. So first up, the Arrow releases. First up is a double release of Abel Ferrara's King of New York. And this will have a Blu-ray release as well as a 4K release, which is of a new 4K restoration that was done on the film. Now this is a UK only, so I assume the Blu-ray is going to be region B locked, and obviously the 4K is region free. And then their other one is David Cronenberg's Crash. Now this is another case where it's the same thing. There's a Blu-ray edition as well as the 4K edition. Blu-ray edition is UK only, so I assume again it is probably going to be region B locked, but the 4K edition will obviously be region free. And it does feature a 4K restoration from the original camera negative that was supervised by David Cronenberg. And again, these are UK only, so definitely take that in mind unless you do have a 4K player, in which case you can at least get the 4K one, at least play the movie disc if the extras are in fact on a separate disc. I'm not sure about that yet. Now next up on one of their US only releases is actually the movie Silent Running, and that'll have a new 2K restoration that was done, and it was supervised by director Douglas Trumbull, who is a huge visual effects artist, and this is one of the films he actually directed, so it's nice to know he was actually involved in this release. And then next up is a multi-release, so there will be actually US and UK, and that is for a more recent film called Lake Michigan Monster. It looks like kind of like a goofy fun film. I think there's basically two releases, one for the UK, one for the US. And then the next one also coming out in for both the US and UK is the movie Burst City, which is a Japanese film from 1982, which I haven't seen, but it looks like it could be quite off the wall, so definitely one I'm interested in checking out. Another one that is also luckily for both regions, and that is a box set featuring the films of William Griffey. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Basically called He Came from the Swamp, and that comes with 7 of his films. Are I think a majority from the 60s, maybe some from the early 70s, I'm not sure. Sort of reminds me a little bit of the Al Adamson set from just a couple months ago from Severin, where it's sort of like honoring one of these kind of low budget filmmakers, which I really appreciate that they're doing that. So the films in this set include String of Death, Death, Curse of Tartu, The Hook Generation, The Psychedelic Priest, The Naked Zoo, Mako, Jaws of Death, and Whiskey Mountain. I think we've actually only seen 2 of these before, so definitely some there I haven't seen. So love these kind of boxes. Obviously it's loaded with a bunch of extras as well. Well, I mean, obviously all these releases are loaded with extras, and again, just looks like a really fun box set. Definitely some interesting titles for the month. Obviously got to play with a little bit of region coding there depending on which ones you want, and again, those are coming out in November. And then next up, Severin has announced a couple new titles that are due for the end of September. First up is the movie Primitives, which is sort of a cannibal film. I think it's actually one of the few I don't believe I've seen yet. I definitely need to be sure to check that one out, so I can say I've seen, I think, almost all of the cannibal films, and that does have a new transfer from the original negative. And next up is Massacre in Dinosaur Alley, which has actually received a new 4K scan from the original negative. It's not a 4K release, it's just Blu-ray release, but it does have a new 4K scan. And I think this was released in the UK from, was it 88 Films or somebody? So a couple years ago. So it's nice to know that it's getting a release here. And that's a fun one. It's sort of like, it's a mix of everything. It sort of has, it's like one of those that is sort of like, I think it's like part cannibal movie, part action movie, part other kinds of movie, like almost all of those like Italian rip-off movies, from back then, sort of thrown into one. It's definitely a fun film if you haven't seen it. And then finally, the one I'm most excited about, and I really never thought was going to get a release, and that is Bruno Mattei's Cruel Jaws. Now, the reason why I never thought this was going to get released is because, and I won't get in any trouble, basically, there are aspects of it that used pre-existing footage from a studio film with a semi-similar name. That's all I'm going to say, because I don't want, I don't want to stop this release anyway, because I want it. But it's a Bruno Mattei film, and if you're familiar with his films, that this is, it's cheesy and awesome all at the same time. And what's cool is that it's going to have actually 2 cuts of the film. One is the original Italian cut, as well as the unreleased Japanese extended cut, which is interesting. Not sure what that's about. If you've never seen Cruel Jaws, I highly recommend it if you love, if you love Bruno Mattei's films and you haven't seen it, you definitely need to check it out. If you love films that are bad but in a good way, it's worth checking out. And again, these three are slated for September 29th. Now, each one comes with a slipcover that is, I believe, exclusive to Severin. Otherwise, I believe these are titles that you'll be able to get anywhere, but if you want some of the exclusives, you can get them now from Severin. And obviously, they always have their bundles, which are a lot of fun. So if you want to splurge a little extra, you can always get, which is basically what I ended up doing, getting the Cruelest bundle, which you get all three films, including a novelization of Cruel Jaws. That should be interesting. A bandana, a shark water gun, and a Cruel Jaws toilet decal. So, oh boy. Now, Cruel Jaws is region A locked, but Primitives and Massacre in Dinosaur Island are region free. And one special thing that a buddy of mine told me about, I'm going to consider this a rumor until obviously there's an official announcement, but supposedly we actually could be getting from Universal a 4K release of John Carpenter's The Thing sooner than later, which I am super excited about. Even if it's just a movie-only release, I don't care. I think that's one of John Carpenter's films that I know will just look amazing in 4K. So I'll definitely keep an eye out on more news on that. So that's it for this video. We actually should be getting some Scream Factory announcements soon as well, so I'll keep an eye out for those. So definitely let me know your thoughts, and as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.